Shadow Slave. By Guiltythree. Chapter 175, Reunion. On the way out of the castle, Kai was strangely silent. Sunny didn't mind, because he had a lot to think about going back to that lodge. There were a lot of things there that he had hoped to never see, feel, or experience again. For a moment, he even thought about rushing straight back to his cathedral without making good on his promise, but why should he? It's not like he asked to be invited back. Nephi's was the one who wanted his help with something. Just pretend like you don't care. Also, demand to be compensated for whatever it is they want you to do. You're an outsider now, and your services won't be cheap. Yeah, that was the best option. He wasn't going to agree to anything that didn't serve his own selfish interests. And there were a lot of things that Changing Star, with her thriving hunting party and following, could provide him with. There was this one thing in particular, something he really wanted to do, but couldn't on his own. Maybe they would be able to help him with that. As they were approaching the lodge, Kai suddenly asked in a serious tone, "Sunny, why did you want me to come with you, really?" Sunny sighed. Glancing at the charming archer, he hesitated, then said, "I want you to tell me if I'm being lied to." Kai frowned. "I thought that Lady Nephi's was your friend. Why are you so wary of her?" Sunny chuckled. Was she a friend? Even he didn't know what exactly the two of them were to each other. Worse yet, he wasn't sure what they would become. She's the kind of friend you don't really want to lower your guard around. He lingered for a moment, then added, "There's also a guy called Castor. He's the one I especially don't trust." The archer raised his eyebrows. "I've heard only good things about Castor. Why him specifically?" Sunny cast a sideways glance at him and scowled. To be honest, Castor hadn't really done anything to deserve his hostility. But there just was something about the proud legacy that gave Sunny a familiar feeling. He was too perfect. In Sunny's experience, only people with bad intentions were capable of appearing so flawless. Perhaps he was wrong, but the policy of always assuming the worst had too clean of a track record to be abandoned now. "He just gives me the creeps." Seemingly satisfied with this answer, Kai shrugged and followed Sunny into the lodge. The headquarters of Changing Star's hunting party had changed a lot since his last visit. It had already looked pretty presentable back when he was a member, but now, the lodge was much more impressive. The first thing that caught the eye was that it had grown much bigger. During the months of his absence, additional structures were built to expand it both horizontally and vertically. Now, it was by far the largest building in the outer settlement, almost starting to resemble a small town hall. It was heavily fortified, too, especially from the side that faced the White Road. A couple of lookouts were visible on the roof, observing the ruins below. They were wearing armor-type memories and holding bows in their hands. It was a far cry from how things were before. Inside, a lot of people were busy with various tasks. Sunny froze for a moment, disoriented by all the activity. He almost felt as though he had somehow mistakenly returned to the castle. The reason for it was not the neat and tastefully decorated interior, with warm carpets covering the stone floor and various tapestries hanging on the sturdy stone walls. No, the main difference was in how the people here comported themselves. The rot of hopelessness was almost gone from their eyes, replaced with energy and vigor. Sunny frowned. Why hasn't Gunlog put an end to all this yet? From everything that he saw, Nephi's was almost asking to be destroyed. How was all of this possible? His grim thoughts were disrupted by a young woman who greeted them with a smile. "Welcome. Can I help you with something?" Sunny stared at the smiling girl, trying to remember if he knew her. No one came to mind. Trying to remove the scowl from his face, he answered in a flat tone, "Neph is expecting me." The young woman blinked. Sorry. Who is Neph?" Sunny rolled his eyes. "Sorry. Lady Nephi's is expecting me. You know. Changing Star of the Immortal Flame clan." The young woman's eyes widened. "Oh. I see. Let me show you the way." Sunny wanted to retorn that he knew the way, but truth be told, he wasn't sure that he did. With all the changes that happened to the lodge, he had no idea where things were. On their way, they passed the tiny room that used to belong to him. Just as they were walking by, Sunny glanced inside and saw that it was now home to someone else. In fact, he recognized a couple of things that the new owner left on the narrow cot. They were Castor's. A corner of his mouth curled upward, figures. It seemed as though he was thoroughly replaced by the scion of the Hanley clan. Well, whatever. The cot was not very comfortable anyway, unlike his luxurious wide bed in the hidden chamber of the cathedral. Finally, the young woman led them to the area that used to be the central hall of the old lodge. Now, it was separated from the rest of it by a thick wall, with a sturdy wooden door barring the way inside. Sonny took a deep breath, then walked in. He had imagined that moment a lot of times in the past. Granted, he never thought that his reunion with the cohort would happen in the presence of an unreasonably attractive, washed-out pop star. But still, inside the room, a wide window opened onto an eerily breathtaking view of the dark city. On the wall beside it, a map of the ruins was littered with various markings that contained valuable information. They seemed to be much denser than before. There was a large wooden table beside the window, around which stood 7 makeshift chairs. Currently, only 2 were occupied. Effie was sitting on one, her feet unceremoniously resting on the table. As always, she looked extremely comfortable and relaxed. On the chair next to her, a beautiful blind girl was cradling a cup in her delicate hands. It was Cassie. Nephi's and Castor stood near the map, discussing something with each other. The 4 of them were the core of the immortal flame hunting party. Once Sonny and Kai entered, everyone turned to them. Sonny put on a brave face and forced out a grin. Oh, so many familiar faces. Hi, everyone. No need to say how much you missed me. Anyway, this is Kai. Kai, say hi to everyone. These are Cassie, Castor, and Effie. You already know Nephi's. Giving him a strange look, the charming archer smiled dazzlingly and said in his stupidly beautiful voice, hello. Lady Nephi's, Cassie, Castor, Huntress Athena. It's very nice to meet you. Cassie giggled. You won't believe it, guys. I thought I just heard Knight from Nightingale say my name. Crazy, right? Kai blinked. Oh, sorry. I am Knight from Nightingale, actually. Effie leaned forward and extended one arm. Cassie's face, meanwhile, grew deathly pale. An expression of utter terror appeared on it. Her hands trembled, and the cup she was holding fell from them. Catching the cup just a moment before it hit the floor, Effie sighed and shook her head. Every time. This happens every time. Sonny furrowed his brow and glanced at the beautiful archer with disdain. Oh, come on. Was that reaction really necessary? Chapter 176, Coming Clean. 4 people in the room reacted to his arrival differently. Nephi seemed to be indifferent, as always. However, Sonny knew her well enough to notice a strange tension hiding in the depths of her calm gray eyes. Castor greeted him with an amiable smile, but there was coldness hiding behind it. It seemed as though the handsome scion was not happy about this turn of events. Did he see him as a rival for Neff's attention, or was there more to it? In any case, it was not Sonny's problem. He did not plan on returning to the cohort on a permanent basis. Castor could have all the attention to himself. Effie looked at him with a genuine surprise. Doofus. You are actually alive. Sonny blinked and stared at her for a few moments, then said in an acrid tone, sorry to disappoint. She shook her head. No. Just. How the hell did you manage to survive 3 whole months in the ruins? He grinned. What can I say? I had a good teacher. Since Effie was the one who taught him how to navigate the dark city, that compliment was directed at her. However, the huntress simply shook her head. No student of mine would be stupid enough to actually live in the ruins. Not to mention returning looking so feral. Do I look feral? Sonny took a mental picture of himself. Ragged clothes, dirty hair, a crooked grin, a hint of madness burning in his eyes. No, he couldn't see anything wrong with how he looked. In fact, the thought he looked great. With an offended frown, he glanced at Effie and said, yeah. Well. You look like you've gained a little weight in all the right places. Focus, fool. The huntress glared at him for a few moments, then laughed. A girl got to eat. But also wanna die. And finally, there was Cassie. Cassie seemed to have changed the most out of all of them. The changes were not instantly apparent, but to Sonny, who knew her so well, they were unmistakable. The blind girl seemed more mature. She looked older, somehow. It was as if there was an invisible weight pressing down on her, the kind that people usually accumulated with the flow of years. Her demeanor was calmer, more restrained. Almost cold. Welcome back, Sonny. I'm so happy that you are all right. Giving him a polite smile, she grew silent and turned away. This wasn't exactly the kind of welcome he had expected from her. He had been sure that the blind girl would give him a hug, at least. That was how it always happened in his head. Maybe she is shy because of Kai. However, Sonny had a feeling that he already knew the true reason for her subdued attitude. He just didn't want to admit it. It was the vision. That damn vision. Chasing away the feeling of dread, he sat down on one of the chairs and offered another one to Kai. So, what did you guys want to discuss? Nephi's and Castor exchanged glances. Before saying anything, Castor walked over to the door and closed it. After that, he summoned a memory that looked like a bone flute and placed it on the table. Immediately, something in the room imperceptibly changed. Sonny raised an eyebrow. What is that thing? The handsome young man sat on a chair next to Changing Star and said, this memory has an enchantment that creates a cone of silence. No one outside this room will be able to hear what we're talking about now. Ah. This fact alone was already enough to tell Sonny that they were going to discuss something that had to do with the Bright Lord, Gunlog himself. Suddenly, he felt an irrational desire to be anywhere else but in this brightly lit room. The wide window began to look very alluring. He sighed. So, the Bright Lord is finally ready to obliterate you all. Can't say that I'm surprised. If anything, it's strange that he didn't make a move much earlier. Effie giggled. Oh, did he ever? Nephi's glanced at her, making the huntress fall silent, and turned to Sonny. You are right. The Bright Lord is indeed about to make a move. We have withstood his previous attacks, but they were just a rehearsal. A few provocations to test out strength. Now, he is ready to act in earnest. And that's why I need your help. Sonny raised his eyebrow. How can a cockroach like me help the great and mighty Changing Star of the Immortal Flame clan? Effie gave him and Nephi's a strange look, then cleared her throat. Don't take it to heart, princess, but I sort of agree with Sonny. What can this little imp? Ah, no offense, Sonny. Do that we can't. I mean, he is a decent scout, but... Hey. Offense taken. Changing Star smiled, then looked at Sonny. Don't be misled by his act, Effie. Sonny might behave like a cowardly weakling, but in fact, he's the last person in the Dark City I would want to face in combat. He is far more dangerous than anyone thinks he is. Isn't it right, Sonny? The smile froze on his face. A few moments passed in silence, with everyone staring at him. Finally, Sonny sighed. Oh well. I guess the secret is out of the box. Surprise, everybody. I am actually not a weakling. Who could have thought? Then, he glared at Effie and added in a mocking tone, oh. My mistake. Actually, everyone except for you already knew. It seems that you are. However, Neff interrupted him. That's why he was able to survive 3 months in the ruins, just like he had survived 2 in the labyrinth. Sonny is an extremely formidable fighter. Wow. Is she trying to flatter me? He's just a bit of a devious asshole. But that's exactly what makes him so dangerous. I guess not. Looking at Effie, Sonny shrugged and smirked. If you don't believe her, just ask Knight. Suddenly dragged into the conversation, Kai coughed, hesitated for a moment, and then said, Yes, I can confirm. He is indeed a bit of an asshole. Sonny's face twitched. Not that. Tell them how I saved you. The charming archer fluttered his eyelashes with an innocent look, then added, Oh, right. Indeed, Sonny saved me in the ruins last night. He is a very exceptional and resourceful individual. Sonny glanced at Effie with triumph. He didn't really want to provoke the tall huntress any further. But she did call him a little imp. See, Knight has known me for just 1 night, but even he was able to see how fearsome I am. You and I, on the other hand, had hunted together for an entire month. How come you're so dense? Whatever. It's not like he would be spending a lot of time with Effie. Let her boil with anger. With a teasing smile on his lips, Sonny turned to Nephi's and asked, Anyway, what exactly do you want me to do? Changing Star hesitated, then said, I want you to take Effie to your hideout in the ruins and keep her safe there for about a week. Sunny blinked. Oh, no. I'm dead. Chapter 177, Cloak and Dagger. Sunny grew silent and tried very hard not to look at the huntress, who was glaring at him with murder in her eyes. Did he hear it right? Excuse me. Keep her safe. Nephi's gave him a nod, then hesitated for a few moments and sighed. I guess I owe you an explanation. With a frown, she glanced at the map of the Dark City. Her gaze was fixed on the symbol of a tower drawn in its center with white paint. The Bright Castle. After a few moments, she said, You asked why Gunlog hasn't killed us all yet. This is a good question. However, the answer is complicated. Changing Star turned her head and looked at Sunny. Partially, it is because I have not challenged him openly yet. I also haven't done anything to justify an intervention. Everything we have accomplished for the benefit of the outer settlement not only fell outside the purview of his reign over the castle, but also strengthened the human position on the Forgotten Shore overall. Officially, he has no grounds to accuse me. Sunny scoffed. It's not like Gunlog really needs justification. He only needs the pretense of one, and even then just barely. Nephi slightly frowned. You are right. If he really wanted to escalate the situation and bring about an open conflict, he could have easily created a reason. Alternatively, he could have sent Harus under the cover of night to make me disappear without a trace. But he didn't. And we are not entirely sure why. Sunny blinked. You don't know. Glancing at Castor, Neff shook her head. There are several possible reasons. Perhaps he is uncertain if Harus will be able to dispose of me. Perhaps he is using the growing status of the outer settlement as a deterrent against his lieutenant's ambitions. Perhaps he is just confident and patient. Whatever the case, Gunlog more or less tolerated our existence for these past 4 months. Castor sighed and added, Of course, there were still challenges we had to overcome. If we weren't cautious in how we dealt with these provocations, things would have been very different. Changing Star nodded. Indeed. There were several attempts to taunt us into confrontation already. Nothing too bloody, though. However, things seem to have changed. We received word from the castle that Gunlog is going to act against us soon. This time, he is aiming at one of my companions. The attack will be a serious one, and the target is Effie. Sunny glanced at the unruly huntress and raised his eyebrows. He had a lot of questions. Why her? Castor clenched his fists. It could have been any of us, really, but Effie. Despite all my warnings. Got into a rather vulgar argument with a bunch of guards who came into the outer settlement for some entertainment. Coincidentally, some of these guards went missing last night. No one knows what happened to them. Oops. Sunny was pretty sure that he knew exactly what had happened to them, though. After all, he was the one who killed them. But Castor didn't need to know any of this. Actually, I might know something about that. Kai suddenly said, smiling like an idiot. Who asked that fool to open his mouth? He tried to make the archer shut up with a murderous stare, but it was already too late. Kai enthusiastically went on to describe how he was kidnapped, put in the well, and then rescued by a mysterious stranger, who turned out to be Sunny. Luckily, he was under the impression that the kidnappers were all slaughtered by the Black Knight, not realizing that Sunny was the one who had lured them into the cathedral in the first place, after personally killing their leader. If Kai knew the full truth, things might have turned rather awkward. After he was done talking, Castor sighed. Thank you, this is a very valuable piece of information. Sadly, it doesn't change anything. Effie is still in danger. The Bright Lord is going to use her as a hostage and force Lady Nephi's to challenge him. If she does, he will kill her. If she doesn't, Effie will die, and our reputation will be ruined. Either way, he wins. Sunny cast a sideways glance at Effie, who was still relaxed and seemingly undisturbed by the prospect of dying horribly in the dungeons of the Bright Castle. In fact, she was currently more interested in fishing out a piece of meat that was stuck between her pearly teeth and not paying Castor any attention. What a lunatic. Sunny thought with scorn, making his shadow shake its head at the irony of that statement. Turning to Nephi's and Castor, he asked, How do you know all this? In fact, this question was moot. He already had the idea. To receive information about Gunlog's plans, they had to have a spy in the castle. More than that, given the nature of that information, it had to be someone of considerable rank. Perhaps even someone in the inner circle of the Bright Lord. Was Neff working with one of the lieutenants? Sunny counted the number of chairs in the room. There were 7 chairs, but only 6 people. Interesting. Castor hesitated, then reluctantly said, "We have an ally." Sunny decided not to press the issue any further. Frankly, he didn't really want to know. There was just one last question he wanted to ask. "I see. Well, there is this one thing that I don't really understand. You said to keep Effie safe for a week. What is going to change in a week? I doubt that Gunlog will magically forget everything after a few days." A heavy silence descended on the room. No one seemed to want to speak first. After a few moments passed, Nephi's finally broke the silence. Looking in the window, she leaned back and said in her usual even, indifferent tone, "In a week, we will be ready to leave the city." Sunny almost fell from his chair. That was not what he had expected to hear.